Let us see how to create a GraphQL web application using Spring Boot. If you haven't seen the previous video on GraphQL and how it works, please go and have a look at it so you will be able to understand this part well. Here, first we have to do is we have to create a Spring Boot application. For that, let us go to this site. I'm creating a Maven project. Here you can give whatever group name, artifact name, everything you want. The only important part what I want to show here is the dependencies. Here you can give GraphQL and GraphQL, then Spring Web. These are the only two dependencies we want for this application. Then we can go and generate it. I already have a project uploaded here. For GraphQL, most important part is the schema definition. Spring Boot creates a folder GraphQL in the resource directory. Here we can put our schema. One requirement is it should have the extension GraphQL-S. Otherwise, Spring will not identify this file. In this schema, we have three queries. One is company with argument ID, one with the company list. Without argument, it will return an array of companies. Then the branch with the argument branch ID, it returns the selected branch. Then there is a type mutation. It has the root field name, create company. It has an argument, company input. It is of type company input, and it returns string. In our example, we'll return the newly created company's ID. Whichever objects we defined here, we need to define in the schema as type. Company type has this many fields, then the branch and the company input. This is our schema. Let us see our code now. If we have seen the GraphQL Java example, there we had to do so many configurations. But in this case, all those configuration is taken care by Spring itself. We just need to do minimal configuration through some annotations. Let us see our code. This is our controller. This is having an annotation at controller. What we need is we need to bind schema with the query what customer sends with a function, right? Function which will execute and give us the result. That is happening here. We have the query company here. Let us see the schema first. We have the company query. We are annotating it with query mapping. It has an argument ID and it returns object type company. Data repository is a static repository which is created just to provide data for our example. I have created a few companies here with IDs 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then some branches with IDs B underscore A, B, C, D, and E. These are the data we'll be using to test our application. Similar way, the query mappings for the company list. In schema, we have the company list. It doesn't have any argument. Then the branch, which is having an argument, branch ID. This name has to match what is there in the schema. Then this function, you can see that there's a schema mapping. It is not type mapping. What it says is, if it sees a field parent company, we can see parent company here, then it need to be resolved with this function. That's all it says. So in the schema, for any field, we can put such schema mapping so that a specific function will be called and data will be populated with that function. We'll see an example when we execute it. We can see the mutation mapping here. So create company. This is the name given here in the type mutation, and it has an argument company input of type company input. It is having an argument company input of company input. There's an object created company input here. Then what we are doing is we are just creating a company object and adding it to the data repository. This application has a file in the resource directly, that is the application.properties. Here we have done an entry spring.graphql.graphql.enable is equal to true. This will give us a web UI for testing our GraphQL application. Let us run our application now. When you test your code, there should not be any unmapped fields here. If an unmapped field is there, that means some field is not mentioned in the schema or some discrepancy is there between the schema and the code. We are saying that localhost colon 8080, that is where the server is running, slash GraphQL. You can see that there's a UI here. We can give our queries here and get the output in this side. Here what we are doing is we are using the query company with ID is equal to 1. What we are saying is we need the result with ID and name. We don't need any other fields. Let's see how it works. This is the result. We have the ID and the name. Let us see the company list. This is the second query. We have a company list here. You can see we have a company list here, and it lists all the companies in the data repository. We are saying that we don't need all the fields. We just need ID and the name. Only ID and names are displayed here. If you want state as well, we just give state here. Output will bring state as well. This is the way we query the API. That means API will have all the outputs in the server side. There we are saying that we need only these few fields, whatever field we want. For that, we don't have to expose another endpoint. This is a common endpoint. You can see slash GraphQL, right? That is the create company. It returned 7. It's whatever new company we created, that it is returned. So let us see the company list. We are expecting the new company to be there. You can see that new company is also available there. We have sent only ID and name. That's why other fields are null. Another query what we have is branch. Let us run that. Here you can see that parent company ID 1444. This is returned from this function. We can see that reached parent company. This got executed. Suppose if we are not giving this, let's execute. That field will not come here. And in the code, we can see that the second request didn't get into this function at all. Suppose this function goes to database and pull company details for that branch. In that case, if the client doesn't need that information, one database query is reduced here, right? So the performance will be better in this case. That is the benefit of using GraphQL. Hope you would have got better idea on GraphQL and how to create GraphQL application using Spring Boot.